Welcome to our podcast on women in residential construction, hosted by Simpson Strong-Tie, a leading manufacturer and technology services company of engineered building products in the residential and commercial space. In this podcast, we take a closer look at the women who make up the residential construction industry. We're going to have an open discussion about how we got here, what challenges us, motivates us, and makes us succeed. In each episode, we will be joined by 3 guests to get their perspectives on what it's like to be in this field. We will talk about how women can affect change and create an environment where other women want to be a part of.
Welcome, everyone. It is with great pleasure that I am hosting today's podcast on women in residential construction with a special conversation about mentorship. My name is Shelby Short. I am the Director of Global Quality for Simpson Strong-Tie. Simpson is the leading manufacturer and technology service company for residential and commercial construction. With me today are 3 amazing women also in the construction industry. Let's meet them now.
Happy to be here. Kelly Hansen with Lennar,
Welcome, Kelly.
National Director of Purchasing.
Hi, Shelby. I'm Angie Roseman, Vice President of National Contracts and Options at Beazer Homes.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Becky Matt-Miller. I'm in builder sales at Whirlpool Corporation.
All right, ladies. Well, this is going to be a fun conversation. I know mentorship is very important to me. I know it's important to us. We've been talking about this for a while. So let's get into it. What I like to do is just hear your stories about what does mentorship mean to you. We've talked before where mentorship shows up in different ways. It's we'll say the formal process of a company actually having a program, which is actually pretty rare. And then mentorship shows up in ways that maybe you're asked to be a mentor or maybe we seek it out. And so really would love to just kind of hear your stories about what does mentorship mean to you?
To me, mentorship is sharing information. And a lot of times you're sharing information with someone who doesn't know what they don't know, right? And so you're taking responsibility to share lessons on life and business with somebody.
Yeah, no, it's very true.
With the complexity of home building, mentorship, it's tribal knowledge, right? You have to ask questions. We don't automatically, I didn't go to school for construction, and there's so many parts and pieces. And so I think having the confidence of not knowing, like you said, it's really about, you don't know what you don't know until you ask.
Right. And being brave enough to ask.
Yep.
Right. There's courage behind that.
Fearless.
Yeah. Right. We all are. I would call us fearless. Absolutely. Women in construction, we have to be a little fearless for that.
Right.
Perfect.
And I was just going to kind of piggyback off that, right, in terms of, being courageous to kind of ask for that feedback, but also being somebody who's willing to share that feedback and willing to share those experiences and things that you've learned from others to lift people up, both in their personal and professional objectives.
Right. And knowing that that's going to happen, right, and having the impact, and mentorship has an impact. I know for me, right, there's just a long history of experiences being a mentor or being mentee, if that is, right? And knowing that impact. And I think that's a special place to be impacted, but also having the impact on someone else. Can you guys think of a time where you've had that moment that that you've had an impact on someone? Maybe it wasn't a formal mentorship moment, but that you've had a mentor moment with someone?
Always when they use my lines against me.
Then they've been listening.
Absolutely. I'm like,
right.
I've heard that somewhere before. And it is a proud moment because it's like, okay, you really do, you're engaging. It's exciting. It really is.
Right.
But organic too at the same time.
Right. Well, that's what we were talking about earlier, right? There's that formal mentorship process, and then there's the organic moments. And I think most of the time, they're mostly organic. I know for us, we do not have it at the company, and actually the companies I've worked for I've never experienced a formal mentoring program. Have you ladies had a formal program? How was that different than, we'll say, the organic moment?
I was lucky that early in my career, I was at GE Appliances, and GE had a formal mentorship program. And so they, made suggestions on, who to choose and what to look for on both sides of the fence. And so as I moved through my career at GE and then at other companies, I just, they didn't have formal programs, but I realized the importance of it. So I just kind of sought it out myself.
Nice. Is that something, does that last like a lifetime of the program? Or is it like a year? Like, does that relationship just build over time?
Yeah, so it builds over time, but they kind of gave parameters on when you ask someone to be your mentor, you are in charge of that relationship.
Okay.
You're in charge of setting up lunches or meetings and keeping it going. And I think that's an important distinction. I mean, obviously, if you're mentoring someone, you care about them and are invested in their success and check in with them, but the mentee is the one driving, setting up the meets. And so in my formal program, they suggested like once a quarter. And so I just tried to keep to that schedule.
Nice.
It's really a pull, not a push, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that for our company, we have, I think it's not necessarily called mentorship, but it's really about training and peer-to-peer training and just our environment. We have a very, very special culture and environment that really allows you to be the best and to, seek out others who emulate that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very rewarding enrichment program we have.
That's great.
Whirlpool does something very similar to the example that you shared in terms of them having kind of this formal mentorship, a little bit different in respect to the fact that sometimes one is recommended for you.
Mm.
You as an individual may not know that person very well, right? So it is, the onus is on you to schedule the meetings, come prepared with the questions, be very direct in terms of what you're looking out of that relationship.
Right.
But, then actually to get something out of it and parlay that into a longer term relationship or even a different form of mentorship. And I've had those experiences and they've been positive. They've been positive. Although I would say I've probably learned the most from more of that organic, more of that informal.
More
That's
natural.
Yeah, the one that's a bit more natural versus, oh my gosh, I have my mentor meeting coming up next week. What is it that I'm going to talk about? I much prefer more of that, organic and more of that conversation piece. And I really enjoy almost the example that you were talking about, like, I saw somebody that I really respected in that moment, and I am going to go and try and learn from that person so I can be more like that going forward. I think that's much more positive and a lesson that you take with you a lot longer. I can't really tell you what I talked to my formal mentors about, to be honest with you, but I know a lot of my informal nuggets that I got from people.
Right. Interesting, because about 2 minutes ago, I was feeling a little jealous that I had not had a formal mentoring program experience, but based on what you just said, that maybe actually the organic way and the informal is even better. To add more color to what you were just saying about my experience of looking for people that you are connected with, right? It was about 20 years ago, and we were doing a project for the company, and we were in a big meeting room. It was full of consultants, and this woman walked in and just owned the room. And I was just in awe. And mostly men in the room, as we typically are in this industry. And she just owned it and was just professional and polite, but knew her stuff. And so that when there was a break, walked up to her and said, I'm just really, and I'm not sure what the words I actually used because it was a while ago, but basically, like, I really would like to talk to you after the meeting if you would be open to it. And she said yes. And now looking back, right, she knew she was going to be, quote, mentoring me. I didn't go and ask her, can I take 30 minutes when we're done and be mentored, please? Right? But that's really what was happening. And so when she sat with me and I asked a bunch of questions, and her biggest advice was, you need to build your own personal board of directors. And again, she was also giving me advice on that's really building your mentorship, team. And that was just in a 30-minute, and I never saw her again.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an amazing moment. How about you guys? What's maybe your most favorite or memorable organic moment that has impacted for you in your career?
I think as far as like organic, how I ask someone to mentor me or to let them know I'm interested is I usually send them a note or ask them, hey, would you be up for a career chat sometime? I'd like to learn about how you got to where you are today.
Right.
That's been my go-to. for the past several years.
Do you find most of the time the response is positive?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. Because you make the note, complimentary, like, hey, you're in a great position. I'd love to learn from you. Are you cool with like a 30-minute career chat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it.
Yeah, I think that's really great. Ours is very similar. I mean, it's not, hey, will you be my mentor? It's not that
It's
awkward.
mentor hour.
But
right?
it is something that even at Whirlpool, right? Like we have such a strong culture of mentorship, very similar to what you were talking about in terms of being your best. It really is, if somebody reaches out to you, the expectation is that you do want to help that person grow, whether you've worked with them before or not. And they are taking an interest in, your career and how they can move up as well. And it's supposed to be mutual beneficial, that way. And I've always had people accept my invites as well.
That's great.
Yeah, but again, I would say, to go back to your question in terms of what have been some of those things that you've really kind of carried, I guess, for me, I've looked at it as one, watching others and just kind of making mental notes. They don't even realize that they're mentoring me in a way.
Yep.
I'm observing and trying to figure out how I can embed that into my, approach and how I show up every day. But then there's also been other times where just asking for advice or even having a conversation around a problem that I'm struggling with. And all of a sudden I walk away feeling much more confident and able than I did before. And I try and remember those moments, as I go through.
Carry them with you all day long.
Yeah, just put them in
your back pocket, right? Maybe front pocket. Yeah.
What I was thinking about when you were just talking was all my best hits are stolen material.
Oh, absolutely. Copy
Looking
paste.
around
Right.
And, be it official mentors. I take things from them and just hearing somebody speak and how they manage maybe up or down. I'm like, I want to do that. That sounds good.
I think my personal aha moment in starting in home building was it's very, very scary.
Yeah.
Because if you make a mistake, it's a big mistake.
Right.
Like you put the wrong house on a lot and you have to tear down that house.
Right.
And so one of my big mentors, a division president, he said, there's nothing you can do that I can't undo.
Oh.
Ever.
Wow.
And it was like, holy cow. And with that type of confidence, I'm like, so it's okay to make mistakes, right? And it was just like a confidence builder that obviously gave me enough rope to hang myself because I did run with it. And I learned how to ask for forgiveness instead of asking for permission.
There we
And
go.
I think that was like the biggest aha for me.
Yeah. Relieves that pressure, right? I mean, especially I think in the early stages of our careers, right? We want to do everything right, but everyone around you doesn't expect that.
No.
I don't know why we put that pressure on us, but that's just reality.
Yeah.
So yeah,
was
having
freeing.
that, right. And having that at the beginning is, then you can just go through it. And
He believed in me more than I believed in myself. And I think that was the turning point for me. And I'm like, okay, I got this. Yeah. And I was faking it for a long time. I got it now. After 25 years, I got it. I can do that.
there we go. Right. Perfection achieved.
Exactly.
Well, I think that demonstrates the impact a mentor can have or a leader to instill confidence in somebody, right? Like what a big deal that made.
Yeah,
huge. And to tell someone like, I think you're good and smart and you're going to do great things. I mean, that can have a big impact on somebody.
Changes
Absolutely.
everybody, I think, right? The positive.
I agree.
Yeah, because life isn't perfect, right? And life is ups and downs. And so to be able to kind of hold on to that. And what I'm finding interesting is we're all pulling from not an experience necessarily that happened recently. So that moment, right, we're all pulling from, of course, I asked, my story was from years ago, but we're all pulling from a moment that was earlier in our career, not necessarily most current, which is pretty cool.
I mean, the power of it, right? How you carry that with you through all those years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my division president at the time, he probably didn't even think twice about it, but it changed my life. And it totally did.
Right.
And then I just, from there, I mean, I asked a lot more questions, but I had a lot of confidence that if they have confidence in me, then I must have confidence in myself.
Absolutely. So you're making me think about, do you seek out others to mentor? Right? Has there been an opportunity that you can give advice to someone, unsolicited, of course, But that's really mentoring, right? If you can see someone giving a presentation or that they just need some more information because they just haven't been on the planet as long as maybe we have. And so how to help them. But usually people don't necessarily ask for, quote, help, And so I think there's power in that portion of mentorship to be able to go and say, I've experienced this. I just want to give you some good information. Maybe it's inspiring. I don't know the right words, but have you guys had that moment? You do seek that out on a regular basis?
I give unsolicited advice all the time.
Right? Thank you. I was hoping someone said yes because I do it all the time.
Yeah. And I think also like being a leader, that's part of it, right? So yeah, I do often. And there was a gentleman who I would give, advice or tidbits to every now and then. And after a couple months, he asked me for a formal mentorship. So that was cool.
I think we've all also experienced where we have received that unsolicited advice, right? And how helpful it's been. Very similar to your story, perhaps not asking for, so much comfort and confidence, but boy, did that have, such a positive impact. And then even for me, I was recently asked to help interview somebody for a different team. So I was just on the interview panel. And I was very passionate that she was the right person for the role. There are some pieces, that might be a little rough around the edges that could use a little polishing. And the hiring manager was like, oh, so are you signing up to be her mentor? I absolutely would, because that's how much I believe in her. There's some things you just can't teach. If you're telling me that this person just needs a little bit of polishing and a little bit of, professionalism, absolutely. But you can't teach passion, and you can't teach, urgency and energy. And again, I'd rather work with somebody on some of those, smoothing details than anything else, versus like a full-on coaching around like behaviors and performance. And she ended up getting the job, and I'm super excited for her. It's not even on my team, but I just had so much, confidence in her. So excited to see where she goes.
Yeah. Oh, those are the great stories.
Well, now I know you both have been in appliances, and you have to be passionate to be in appliances. I mean, it's not like you can't like halfway do it, because you're talking about a dishwasher. And when we have jets, and we have bottled jets, and we have, and you guys
pull out drawers, right?
Oh, and the stainless, it's just beautiful.
Fingerprint resistant.
Steam.
And so I totally agree with you that, it's those little sparks, and you have to be passionate about what you do. I absolutely love what I do.
Yeah.
Every day it doesn't feel like work, because I just love my job.
And that's such an interesting comment too, because I feel like that's one of the best parts about the builder industry. You work with people who are so passionate about the industry and what they do and what they get to contribute to this final product for somebody to live in this home. And everybody kind of rallies around that and just makes the industry very exciting to be in.
It definitely differentiates, and I think, from any other industry. We make those first move-ins. We make families be born. We make, Christmas happening, or holidays gathering. And for good and bad, So it's like, it's the best part of what we do is deliver homes.
It's pretty special.
It is.
Let's do a little deeper dive into the qualities. We touched on it a little bit, but I'd love to hear a little bit more of the qualities that you look for in a mentor, right? So my story was right, I have a passion also for presenting, even though it makes me nervous, but I love it. The bigger the group, the better. And so when I see somebody who seems very comfortable in presenting, I try to find that person or get some mentoring from them to get some tricks of the trade of, how do they get more comfortable? But so that, for me, that's one of them, is to see the confidence in someone presenting some information. But what about you guys? What are you looking for?
I usually choose a mentor or ask for that career conversation from somebody whose career I'm impressed by or would like to emulate in some way. And I think it's important to not always choose someone that's on your vertical. Like, I'm not in marketing, but one of my mentors is in marketing, but I really, I'm impressed by her career, the different jobs that she's had. And so I wanted to talk to her and learn from her. Regarding her mentors, I think as a female, your first, instinct might be to choose another female to be your mentor. I don't think that has to be the case. Probably half of my mentors are males. again, just someone's career that you want to emulate and to kind of compare and contrast people's experiences, especially in our industry, based on being a woman in construction.
Right. Because there's, we'll say, maybe not as many women options, or a lot of female in maybe even in your office and in your department. So if you are going to seek that out, you're going to have to stretch it out a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. It's very common.
So way back in the dark ages when I started in construction, there really weren't any women.
Were you the first one?
I pretty much was.
Yeah.
I was the first female at a national purchasing level. So for me, it's always been about not the smartest person, but the best communicator, because it's really about communication.
Yep.
And it's how do you talk to men, right? I mean, I'm pretty good at it now. By now, I've gotten pretty good at it.
Had some practice.
I did. And I had a wonderful mentor that where I was at in the division, I got to go to national purchasing. And he's still my mentor. I still work with him today.
Wow.
20 years later. Yeah, it's really exciting.
That's
and I learn from him still today. And it's all about communication and it's about delivery, right? You can say something really bad, but if you say it with a smile, things get a little better, right?
Yep.
So it's really,
absolutely.
it's about communication. And so I was really fortunate to have a couple of great mentors in my career.
Oh, that's great.
And now I look for, the females, like emulating them. At Lennar, we have phenomenal women leadership.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm very blessed with that.
Interesting how the industry has shifted. You went from being one of the first, and now all those women are there. I think that's really exciting.
It's exciting, and we do a phenomenal job of bringing women into the field. So we have, I bet it's probably a 40% ratio. I don't know that for a fact, but when I'm in the field, I see a lot of women.
Awesome.
That's great.
So we really encourage it on our everyone's included policy. So
Yep. Everyone matters.
that's great.
Yeah, I would say, for me, I've had a variety. I've had, men and women, and it's probably transitioned a little bit over my career. I've been at Whirlpool for 20 years, which is still hard for me to say. It's a long time. But, at the time, especially when I was younger, there were a lot of men, and men in more senior positions. So, gravitated towards that quite a bit. But I also had a lot of female direct, people leaders.
Yep.
So that helped me out quite a bit. And now I find myself, even in my situation today, just kind of being a woman and moving up through Whirlpool, very similar to you. I kind of seek out women to bring with, but I also seek out more women in mentorship situations. My life is very different than it was 20 years ago.
Right.
I'm a mom, and now I'm a single mom, and my life has taken so many twists and turns that sometimes it's, for me, where I am right now, I like having that woman to talk to about all of those different things. I find it very rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. Back to building that personal board of directors is building that team around you, right? I know for me, in our company, same, we have more and more women that have come into our company at Simpson. And we had the pleasure of having a female CEO for quite some time, Karen Colonius, who was phenomenal. So to have the female leader at the top was great. So whether she was intentionally or not, was definitely mentoring all the women in the company to really show and lead the way of what that looks like. And I know that was very inspiring, for us too. I will say also looking at mentors and finding them, I do also have to go outside of my own company, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I think for all of us, like we said, there's definitely, if we're seeking out women or just good, we'll say mentor candidates, that it's not always in the vicinity, the area that you're in, that you have to reach out into other industries, other companies. I know that through, conferences or different, experiences, that those moments sort of happen. Do you guys do that too? Like try to find it outside of the company and not just, most of our time is within our own company, but
Right. That's I think the immediate thought is, someone in my vertical, someone at my company.
right.
But yeah, I feel like my mentors, they're all different. And it's someone for something different. Like one's an attorney, talk to her about contracts. One's,
Yep.
just an amazing leader. One's in marketing. And so, yeah, a lot of them outside of the company.
I talk to strangers.
Oh, those are the best.
I spend a lot of time at airports.
I was just going to say the airport and the
Right.
airplane mate.
I'm standing in line at the airport and I'm talking about, they'll see my Lennar bag and so what do you guys do? Oh, hey, we have a Lennar home. So it's like an automatic thing. And I always really how do we engage women to come into our industry? And I think that's really,
Right.
that is really important for at least me. I know probably a passion that we all share is we need the next leaders. We need the next CEOs to become in the home building industry. So I don't know how we can formally do that other than talk to strangers. But I know that there's an opportunity I know that with the Building Foundation Talent, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that.
Yep.
Them.
Yep.
But it's, how do we help engage even in high school? And how do you, can we spend some time there to help the mentorship?
Yeah.
And there's so many opportunities.
So that's a great opportunity, right? Get them young, get them exposed, and finding a path for them.
Especially for females. I think historically a lot of people think of, those trade roles as being, more male driven in terms of, an industry,
Sure.
but getting those females in there is great.
Yeah, because we're not at 4 years old and playing in the backyard and saying, I one day want to be in residential construction. And I'm going to be a mentor and a leader, right? I mean, these are not necessarily conversations that we're having at young ages, and we need to now.
There's so
Right.
mhave trade opportunities because it's about finesse, right? Like a trim carpenter. They don't have to really carry heavy things. You have to carry some things, but it is about working with your hands. And
Sure.
and women are great at it because of the attention to detail.
Right.
Right.
So how do we get more involved, right?
Well, that's why I get, we'll say, excited and fired up about mentorship, right? I mean, those moments happen, what you're just describing, all the time, right? And that really is mentoring. And we just maybe don't, as a world, we don't use that word mentoring in those moments, right? And I think that's just the power of mentoring just in general, right? I mean, I think it's an exciting moment when you have those and an opportunity to bring women into our industry, and you never know what's going to happen.
I liked what Angie said about just it's transfer of knowledge, right?
Sure.
It's you know some things. Let's let you know some things too. So it's a gift, right? You're sharing.
Right.
Yeah.
Not that I want to talk I'm usually a glass half full, but I am curious, is just because life is not all perfect as we want it to be. But has there been an experience on the flip side of mentorship that hasn't worked out? And maybe some lessons learned to share of don't approach it this way, or advice that maybe we didn't work out right? Or maybe you haven't had a negative experience with mentorship. I can't think of anything that I've had negatively. I don't think anybody, to our point earlier, if you ask, most people will say, oh, absolutely. There's a gift and a kind of an ego boost, if you will. But yeah, I mean, has there been a negative experience with you guys? No. That's great. Well, good for us. We're doing something right. Yeah, that's
Nothing
great.
that I recall. So
Well, it's not memorable. I mean, I would think, right?
I probably forgot about it.
exactly. Yeah, I don't hold on to those negative moments.
Let them
Show
go.
some stoicism.
Yeah. Well, I think, right? I mean, we would remember, right? If we reached out to someone and said, I'm really, I love the way you did that presentation. I want to learn more. And I would find it hard to believe that someone would say, no, but I think it's that making sure that we are aware of that all the time, that moment, that person may need us for something. And if we're being asked that we, like you say, give back or pay it forward to be able to do that.
We call that build it forward.
Build it forward. Oh, I love
Let's keep going with that.
And, I very much want to hire people that I want to work for someday. And so you could be working for
Absolutely.
someone you're mentoring today in 15
Absolutely.
years, in 10 years. And so investing
that.
there is super important.
Yeah. Like you say, we've been around for a minute. And so why would we not want to share that information with others to make them better? It's going to make the industry better. It's going to make just women in business better. It's going to make the world better. You know, I mean, there's a roller coaster of life. I don't want to be all, it's not, I feel it's pretty perfect right now. So I'm going to hold on to that. Well, that's great.
I actually liked what you said too, Angie, in terms of reaching out to others, within the industry. My career hasn't always been in sales, so I haven't always had exposure to companies outside of my own. And I would say, like, since being in sales and getting to meet, Kelly and yourself and others, gosh, is there so much to learn from other women. I mean, especially, you work for a builder and you work for a builder, so you guys live and breathe building. I work for a manufacturing company to where builder is a big piece of it, but it's not all that it is, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we manufacture products. So to talk to other females who are in the industry is really uplifting for me, because you just don't get so much of that internally, at Whirlpool.
And it feeds on that passion, like you were saying earlier, right? It's you're passionate about what you do, and then you feed off of that, right? And together it just keeps getting better and better and better.
Like you go to a conference and you come back and you're just re-energized and like it's really
fired up.
Yes. It's really a great feeling.
Right.
And actually, appliances are life and death, just for the record.
They are.
well,
They are.
We were just talking about the air conditioner that went out, right?
Right. But appliances it is the most difficult trade because it's at the very end of last to go in, and there's no recovery time. So what they do, what you used to do, but what they do is it's super important. We can't close a home without them. Right. So
absolutely.
Right.
Oh, we need it all. We need it all.
That's right. Actually, we need.
We need some little Simpson parts in there as well. We got to keep that house up.
We need a lot of metal.
Absolutely right. No,
and we do appreciate that too. By the way,
it's a team effort, right? I mean,
absolutely.
That's part of the process. Well, this has been great, right? I think we've really kind of had a great conversation about mentorship. I would really like to, as a close, I think we could probably talk for hours, which has been great, is to share some final thoughts. Maybe some good advice that you want to share. I know for me, the best advice that I ever got really was build your own personal board of directors. And that has stuck with me. And I share that as much as I can, whether it's asked of me or I'm giving advice. And so, would love some final thoughts with you guys.
Thank you for inviting us. I'm just going to speak on our behalf, right? But this is it's an awesome thing that you guys are doing. Just learn a little bit more about kind of each other. So I really, really do appreciate that.
Thank you.
And thank you. Honored to be here and honored to be with you guys.
Yeah, it was an honor.
Absolutely. It's been fantastic.
It's been great. I want to keep going. Let's talk about other things. Mentorship is one. What else are we passionate about?
As a closing thought about mentorship, I would say don't be afraid to ask. Just be upfront and ask. People, my experience has been consider it an honor to be asked to be somebody's mentor. So don't be afraid. And then the best advice I've gotten from one of my mentors, and maybe he's listening right now, he says, a samurai makes a decision in 7 seconds. Trust your gut. Trust your gut.
Wow.
It's never been wrong for me.
I love it.
I'm going to take both your nuggets away.
I just wrote that down. Right, you're mentoring me right now. I think it's happening.
That is true. Intuition is you can't mess with it. Every time you do get it does go sideways.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to, and even for me in terms of bigger things, very similar to that, it's have the confidence and trust in that decision making. You were chosen for this for a reason, it's because everybody else believes in you.
Absolutely.
And how are you going to now believe in yourself to make those choices?
And the answer is always no if you don't ask.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Be brave. Get out
Brave
there.
for our roles.
Yes. Fearless. Right. I got to write these words down, right? These are going to be our new words. Well, this has been great, ladies. I really appreciate your time and coming here talking about one of my most favorite topics of mentorship. And I think, like we said, I think we could talk about just about anything. So I really appreciate your time and giving some great advice. And hopefully those listening will take some of this great advice and just get out there and be brave, be fearless, be great women in the industry. And again, thank you so much for your time, and we shall meet again.